Wait, you asked the question?
Yeah.
What was the question?
Have folks flipped out? You know the folks I'm talking about the saying, the slogan, the movement, Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Okay. Have those same folks flipped out about nigger and nigger?
Never.
Why?
I mean, we haven't. So in that sense, Black Lives Matter has its own is a movement, if you will. It's its own thing. There's never been a nigga movement. So no one stood up and said, "Hey, we're gonna call it. We gonna call this the nigga movement, and this is it. And we're gonna march. And as we marching, we're gonna say nigga movement. It's never been that.
It doesn't have to be.
But that's the only equivalent in terms of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta get in this. And
why are you raising your hand?
Because I'm respectfully, I'm gonna need just a minute or two.
Go. I love it.
What's happening? It's Gator.
What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Mamba.
And it's the Gator and Mamba show.
Well, welcome to another fantastic episode. I'm pretty sure that we had a lot going on. Specifically, we had the Super Bowl over this weekend, so ain't necessarily no need to actually how'd your weekend go, because it was popping this weekend, man. For the Jesus Christ. Here he go.
Like, why you be trying to change the format?
Yeah, you have anybody.
Like, what's happening? Ask the question, nigga. Ask the question.
How was your weekend?
All right now. So I watched that Super Bowl. No, I'm just playing. No, I had a gala. I had a African heritage gala. With the first black mayor of Brooklyn Park, and
Hollis Winston,
and he had a gala, and the first time, one of a kind. Turnout was great. A lot of beautiful folks attended. A lot of cultures, mostly African cultures, but cultures nonetheless together. Different. East, west, north, south, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. And then I watched the game.
Well, let me tag in with that Black History Month gala, African heritage. Like, that was stupid dope. Like, all the stuff that you and I talk about, and Hollis talks about this too, just about, black folks in the diaspora and African folks coming together, and, regardless of how the story was written before, it's like now we writing a story moving forward, and that's kind of what it was about, and that's what I loved, because we was there and we heard old boy on the, what was that?
Ooh, I can't even tell you what that. It was great. It was Caribbean. It was Caribbean.
Thing.
It was Caribbean.
I know it's a drum. It's some kind of something drum.
But like a sunken in, inverted drum.
Yeah, man. And he was popping that all night, man. It was beautiful music. And then we had Jamesia Bennett and stuff like that. Like, it was
Sounds of Blackness.
Sounds of Blacks. Extremely entertaining. Good food, you know what I'm saying? Usually when you go to a gala, and I'm sorry, I ain't gonna call out no specific names, Mita and NMSDC, but the food be bland as hell. The food is gross. But
that should be I don't even mean to cuss. We got a guest. Sorry, guys. We got a guest, and I don't want to cuss, and I apologize. Sorry.
I think she matters more that you say nigga than
I can't stop saying I can't stop saying nigga.
Well, anyway, but the gala. So the gala was actually amazing, and if all those people in that room at the same time are focused on the objective. The objective is collectively getting together, regardless of the past, getting together and figuring out how to better ourselves, how to better our situation here. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I was with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we talking about, man. Getting together, communication, moving as one, as the fist, you know what I mean? And everywhere we go, just being dominant and taking control.
Yep. Claiming what's already ours.
Yeah.
So now we talking about the Super Bowl, which was Sunday.
Super Bowl. So I guess and I hope our millions of fans don't get upset with us that we
our millions of fans
that we diverting into talking about this mainstream issue. However, I think it's important enough to talk about the halftime show though with Kendrick Lamar. You know what I mean? And I have
This shit was righteous.
a issue and or a conversation, but first I want to know what your issue and or conversation is.
My issue? I don't think I have a necessarily an issue. I think as far as I get entertained by art, so I saw art, right? I like plays and stuff like that. So when I saw what I saw art. I think everybody else, a lot of people, actually, when I'm scrolling through your Facebook or whatever, usually they white, and they were like, "Oh, it's horrible! It was horrible." And more than likely, that's because they didn't get the symbolism and the artistic methods that was being used or whatever.
Somebody said it was horrible?
Oh yeah, it's a lots of white folks said it was horrible.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Ah.
Because, they wanted to be entertained from their perspective. Mm-hmm. And entertain means dance, nigga, basically. Right? That's
Copy.
I said I wasn't going to say the damn word. I said it anyway. But this is their perspective, not mine. That's the main thing. I think they just want you up there doing what they pay you to do, which is make them feel good. And that particular halftime show, I would imagine they internalized that and was lost.
I thought, forgive me, I thought it was probably the most creative halftime show that I ever seen.
Yeah.
I thought it had an artistic view. It had thought. It had strategy. It had everything in there, all the way up to you got Samuel L. Jackson telling you what he talking about. Mm-hmm. And yet and still, it might have went over your head.
I think it went over a lot of people's heads because they were simply looking for entertainment. They didn't sit down. They were already being entertained by the game, right? But I think they sat down and was like, "Oh, this is gonna be your Beyonce, your Dre and them," or they wanted to feel that, but I don't think they were sitting down ready for class.
Can I break it down just a little bit? Not in its entirety, and even I think it's fair to say that I don't know shit, nothing, and so I just have a lot of questions. You know what I mean? I just ask a whole bunch of questions because, I'm just going to admit I don't know nothing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, I have a few questions that may lead us down a path. So I believe that there is a lawsuit if Kendrick Lamar sung that song at the Super Bowl. Is that correct?
So that part I don't know too much about. I know Drake got a lawsuit against Kendrick, and that lawsuit is about defamation, basically.
Okay, so let's just stick with that, cause
why y'all let him chew gum? Y'all got on me with chewing gum, but this motherfucker can chew gum.
Slow it down. Why is this nigga all in my mouth? That shit's crazy, right? Like what man is all looking at somebody and then go dry snitch? But anyways, let's get back on. Sorry, let's get back on point.
We got company.
I am sorry. I am sorry, man.
See, I told you, get that shit out your mouth. That's yours.
Audience, it's too late. He
you
has
smacking.
let me.
The reason why I said is you're smacking on the mic. That's why I did it. I'm not looking in your mouth. I hear him. Nigga, stop.
Well, why didn't the sound man stop me? Right. Now the gun gone. Oh, sorry. Anyways, so I believe that the lawsuit is not against Kendrick specifically, but against UMG.
Universal Music, yeah.
Right?
UMG, Universal Music.
Yeah,
Group.
UMG.
Yeah.
Good. And in said lawsuit, there is Drake explaining how the record label itself has put those two together for its benefit.
Yep. So yeah, so they're saying payola basically. They're paying the record labels purposely paying for this all the streams
rap
and
beef.
All this rap beef basically.
Okay, and there's bonuses and or rewards
When there's beef.
for whoever got the most beef, basically.
yeah.
Right? Okay. So then, is it also true that UMG owns maybe 5 labels underneath them? Interscope being one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So that means basically whatever label the rapper would go to is owned by UMG.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay. So then the CEO of UMG, which owns all the record labels that somebody would go to, gives out bonuses for rappers to fight. Is that about sums it up?
That's what it sounds like that you're saying.
Okay. Wait a minute. I'm asking questions. I ain't saying shit.
No, that
nothing.
You're getting into the detail of it
Nothing.
all, and I don't know.
I'm asking. You said yes to everything that I asked.
I know about Payola. I know about Universal Music Group. I know about they do pay for the consistency as far as if something is popping or whatever, regardless of if it's the same label, they push that and pay that, and they pay to that.
You doing
That's
a lot of
all I
talking.
know.
All I really wanted to know is, did I get anything wrong? That's all
Not
I'm
that
asking.
I'm aware of.
Okay. And so the one can come to its own conclusion as to why that is and or why that makes sense. So let's rewind back to the Super Bowl, right? I believe that there was some messaging from Kendrick in regards to a different type of situation happening
A
right
game?
now. The what?
The game being played.
Yeah, the game being played, right? And he said it was bigger than the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said it, right? Then he got a song to say it ain't enough. What how that song go? His new song is all over the radio right now. What's that song called? Yeah,
Turn the
turn
TV
TV
off.
off. Yeah. Where he say kicking in the door. He say ain't nobody gonna do it
Not
but him,
enough.
right?
Yeah.
He's basically saying it. So, in regards, on the biggest stage in the world, excuse me, did Kendrick Lamar expose the music industry?
I think not just the music industry. I think it's just America in general, because although he's talking about the music industry, sure, but he's also just talking about America being that this is a game. Like we're in a what do you call it? Like a VR type setting, and all the game is played off of black folks' back, as we've said before. Case in point, when the black folks was red, white, and blue, and there was the flag and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And how Kendrick was in the middle, and it broke up the flag to show that there's two separate types of flag. So the country being divided, but ultimately it's just the game being played basically off our backs. You know, so in addition to that, you can say that the music industry or whatever industry, for the most part, we're the ones making $1.something trillion as far as spending, right? And we're the ones that initially are the archetypes, if you will, when it comes to what's cool and what's not cool.
Well, then it sounds like right now would be the perfect time to announce that we're investing in a streaming platforms that allow artists to stream their own content and get their own money for their own self.
Oh, you talking about Pack House Live?
Perfect outside.
Yeah. We doing that. We doing that.
Right. Because why not? Why not make your
Why
own
the
money
fuck not?
and instead of allowing somebody to play a game with you like you're a puppet, huh?
Continue
Steal
to play
your
a game.
mind and your talent from you. That's take it. Yikes! Make you dance.
Dance, nigga.
Dance. You ain't dance right. We don't like it.
Right.
Wait a minute. Remember, they don't get paid for the Super Bowl. You got to volunteer.
Yep.
You got to volunteer, right? So they put hours and hours and hours of man sweat and women sweat into it, and then somebody go say, I don't like it. They so nonchalantly, I don't like it.
Here's a very interesting point, and I think just because I got this shirt on, this shirt is Tupac, right? The same industry that
doesn't
killed
want people to see your shirt.
the same. Shout out to Actively Black again, but the same industry that got Tupac and Biggie killed. Kendrick Lamar standing up saying, "Free yourself," because this is all they want.
Wait a minute. Don't try to count my man out. Kendrick Lamar and Drake. This is a combined effort. I don't think they mad at each other at all.
I
right?
ain't talking about Drake. I'm talking about Kendrick Lamar.
Wait. Drake is the one.
Don't give a shit what you do. I'm talking about Kendrick Lamar.
Okay, but you cursing that lady over there. Drake is the one who filed the lawsuit though. So he the one got the ball rolling.
Great.
Kendrick Lamar is the one who's letting you know what's happening.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to take sides.
It's not
I
a
let
side.
America divide me.
Drake's still a leper when it comes to the industry. He's still a leper when it comes to the industry. I bet you got both of them on your playlist.
I
don't. I don't even like Drake. But fact of the matter is, I like
art. I seen you dance. You was gang banging to Drake. I seen you gang banging. You was
put
doing
shit
this.
like this.
You in Atlanta. You in Atlanta.
What's the gang I was representing?
I don't know.
Okay.
But you was throwing it. You was throwing everything up.
But anyway, we digress. But anyway, I think it's great that in that, because Kanye actually does it too. But he's wild. He be wilding out when he say shit and be all over the place. But he says how wicked the motherfucking industry
Stop it.
is.
Why you keep trying to cut people down, my man?
Anyway.
Did you just hear him just try to help Kodak?
This is what's called
He just tried to help Kodak.
So despite the fact that Kanye makes good points, he also makes some points
he's a genius.
that are off. So
he ain't off.
Yeah, it's off to me. You don't have to be off to you, which makes sense. But he specifies the poison of the industry, especially the entertainment industry. So, anyways, let's move on.
So we got a guest?
We have a guest. We have a guest today, and I want to bring her up. This is a person that I've admired since working with her at this little nonprofit and whatnot. And to be all honest, it was one of the only bosses that changed my life, to be honest. And she actually was with me during the time, or I was with her during the time where there was my mom passed and stuff like that. So we grew a bond from that. But it's definitely a woman that I want to highlight and just say, like I said, just brought me into a whole intellectual mode. I'm like, yeah, let's pop, let's go. So I want to bring it to the stage. Regina Brown.
Regina Brown. Hey, can we get one of them clap things? You make that noise?
For real.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Touched my heart. Touched my heart. So I am glad.
Well, ain't
to
too
be
many
here.
people that that I stick and stay with that are valuable in that nature. So, saying it meant a lot. It means a lot to me too. So, you're here for a reason.
Thank you.
So now that you're here, we're gonna get into the swing of things.
Yeah.
And one thing we do is ask a specific question. And that specific question is in regards to George Floyd, and it's the reason why we got that still can't breathe element there. So what we asked our guests is, where were you when George Floyd was murdered?
At home, about 5 blocks away. And it was an crazy day because we had everything going on with COVID. My next door neighbor, who happened to be my junior high school art teacher, lived next door. He fell that day. He passed away that day. And so then his wife was left alone at home. And so we had protest, we didn't know what was going on in terms of just, all kinds of strangers marching down the street. And I don't care what anybody told you on the news, those were not our people. Okay? And so I'm being me and I'm standing up, get off of my block. You don't belong here. And my daughter's like, Mom, get in the house. They might come back. I'm like, but it didn't really dawn on me having the National Guard rolling down the street. Just the trauma of it, right? The all in all trauma of it, and being told, don't watch the video, and you tell me not to do something, I'm probably, that's the wrong thing to say, so I'm going to go watch the video. But, just the trauma of it still sits. It still sits. And I think for me, the worst part about it is other folks co-opting the movement. Okay? And making it about themselves, right? When you try so desperately to be oppressed and you don't know what that is.
Right.
You don't know what you're asking for. So there's a lot of emotion there for me. And even thinking about, when the verdict came through, and I remember at the organization that we worked on, I didn't know which way it was going to go, but basically telling people, okay, go home, because I didn't know what was going to happen, right? Stuff burning the blocks, smelling the smoke, seeing the smoke. It's a lot. It's something that's going to always be with me, and we should never forget that, because there's been plenty of George Floyd's.
Right.
Okay, this one just happened to be televised.
Right. Okay. So, thank you, and we have you on here because I think we want to get to some of the nitties and the gritties.
The nitties and the gritties.
And maybe even one of the reasons why we were trying to collect ourselves while speaking, because we're very fluent with some words around this piece.
So tell the audience what's happening.
And you have a dissertation.
Yeah.
Right. And I was very intrigued by it because you were talking to me about it, and I was like, you're right. There are words that are like specific, and it's like, oh yeah. So I'm not gonna spill the beans. I want you to kind of bring that to light. What your dissertation is.
So the title of my dissertation. So this is where I say the word as well. It's language, emotion, and cognitive congruence. Does appropriated racism detoxify nigger for African American males? Now, what brought me to this topic, right? What brought me to this topic is communication is my thing. Everything, everywhere communicates, right? We just have to be aware and in tune to it. And so I have been raised that your words have power.
Right.
And be careful what you speak, right? So you're speaking things out into the universe. And so it's like, does it? Right? And at that time, I was looking at some of the Emoto prayer study or word studies, water studies. I don't know if you've heard of the Emoto water studies. So Emoto was a Japanese scientist. He's passed now. But what he was curious about is how words affect the molecules of water.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Right? And so you put the nasty words or the ugly words or the hateful words on the water, and the molecules change. The chemical composition is still H2O.
You do that with water and rice?
With
like
water, rice. Yeah, he specifically did it with water.
Okay.
Other people did it with rice. And so it's like, okay, so if water, and our bodies are 80, 90% water, absorb this negative energy, how are the words that we're speaking to ourselves, how are we absorbing
affected
that?
By it.
Yeah, subconsciously. And so then it also got me to wondering, okay, I get it in terms of, we say we use it. This is why we use the word. But one, where did it come from? We say we're taking something back. Did it ever belong to us?
Right.
Right? And so I'm like, well, let me look at this. When did, because you hear all these different things. And so what it brought me to, and this dissertation has been a long time in the making, because believe me, I got a lot of opposition doing this, right? Because when I first brought the topic up, I think the powers that be at the institution that I am at really thought it was going to be why black people hate each other.
Oh, that's what they wanted to hear.
Right? But it really went into where it came from, how it came to be, what it really means, and then our struggles, our response to oppression. And I looked at oppression basically worldwide and how people's respond to oppression. So breaking it down very simply, we are very, very misinformed generally about America, right? 13 colonies, right? We get that, y'all sung this in 50 nifty United States, right? You got that song. So basically what we have to understand is these were 13 corporations, okay? These were 13 corporations with organizational charters. You had royal charters, which means the crown owned the charter. You had basically private charters, which means you had investors, like you do anything else. Yep. And then you had the charters where there were like splits, where they would split and they would buy out, right, other people. So that's the 13, AKA colonies. They were 13 companies, okay? So let's first understand that part. The second part to that is as these corporations grew, they needed labor, right? Because they came over here, and which is why, they call Native people Indians, because the British came over here basically looking for another India, looking for gold, looking for that, right? And so you can read in the charters, which are still available for you to look at, that you come over here, you're gonna do a company, we want 20% of everything you find. You got to give 20% to the crown. And so what you need is labor. And of course, there was no gold to be found like they thought they were going to find. But what they did find, they found tobacco, right? They found corn. They found cotton. Africans brought over the rice.
Yep.
Okay. And so the first slaves, and I use that term loosely, and we can talk about what that means, but the first slaves were white folks.
Yep.
Right? They got their own first, right? That is where you get the term white trash. And the term white trash simply meant that once they killed them, worked them to death, they threw them in the trash. That's where that term comes from. Okay? So and it was until 1676 at the Bacon Rebellion where you get this idea of the races.
Of white, black, etc.
Right?
Yep.
And so at the time, before that time, the only people known as slaves, which is really Slavs, and Slavs comes from the fact that they had previously subjugated Slavonic people. And so if they called you a Slav, it was an insult. It was a term of contempt. And so that was only applied to the native people. Indian Slavs is what they called them. Okay. So after the Bacon Revolt, and Bacon just wanted control. He wasn't interested in anything else but power. So what he did is he got the servile class, black, white, whatever, to revolt against the elite.
Servile class meaning those who are in service of.
Okay. Right? And so I'm going to try to make this short and not read the whole dissertation. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to is that Bacon's revolt was slotted to win. And what he promised the servile class is if you go against...
Wait, Bacon, it was for the... What was his side? Or he just was for the revolt, period?
He was just using the people.
Okay. So he wanted to get rich, and he just wanted to revolt.
He just wanted to revolt because he wanted to be the governor. And so if you think of the term governor... Now we use the term governor to mean something political. Governor really meant kind of like the CEO.
Overseer. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right. He wanted to be, and at that point, it was the crown who appointed. So he wanted to be the CEO of Jamestown. Right. And he didn't get it, and he got mad. So he decided that
caused dissension. He decided
he caused dissension. Basically, he's like, I'm going to overthrow you. Okay. Right. So you talk about a hostile takeover. That's what he was doing. And so he got the servile class, so black, white, people less elite or people who didn't have as much money. He got some elite to go along with them because they're like, oh, he's about to win. So I better be on the right side of this because he's about to win. So it really was the first inkling of for lack of a better term, civil war. But he died. So basically then people dispersed. But what they found and the other thing that he did, which was really foul, is that he got the servile class to go against the Native Americans. And so what they wanted to do was, well, since the crown's not going to give us land, we're just going to take it from the Native Americans, basically, is how that worked. And so he lost. And at that point in time, then what they decided that they would do is like, oh, shoot, well, we got all these people riled up against these natives, but there's more of them, servile class, than there is of us, the elite. So we need to divide and conquer, right? And that is when the laws really started to separate white, because at that point, white wasn't in any of the laws.
Right.
It was British, right?
Irish, etc.
No, just British.
Oh, just British.
British. That was only everybody else.
Because the king, the crown.
Yeah,
right?
the king and the crown.
Yeah.
You were British. They didn't white, black, British, Indian. They would name Moors, right? So that those are black folks, right? Yeah. And so then at the end of the day, is what happened is this is when the first time that you see white. And so then they started adjusting the laws. So, well, you can only own somebody who is of your own skin color. Right? Because everybody was over here for the money. So let's just be real about that, right? Mm-hmm. And they came from everywhere to be about the money. And so that's when white created. So then they started making these separations where you couldn't whip a white slave without a court order. Any person who owned a white slave and they weren't white, they had to let them go. Things like any white person, because at that point now the slaves are white, any white person could kill a black person and the law not come after them for any reason. So a white slave could kill a black free person who probably at one point owned them,
right,
and not pay penalties for that. So that's how you get the races. So fast forward then to the slave trade. Fast forward to all of that, and you go to 100 years later, 1776, when they're considering the war, right? The independence. So at that point, Thomas Jefferson is really writing basically his treatise, and he talks about then how black people aren't human. Okay, and so that is really what the term means, right? Because you can't say all men are created equal, but yet you have these people over here that aren't.
The term slave or what?
Nigger.
Okay.
Okay. So when you look at that, then you're saying, okay, when we talk about what this means, that's what that word means. Now, why did we adopt that word? Okay. There's a couple of pieces there. So when you think about, anyway, I'll get to what the research says, but when you think about the nigger was property, okay? And so when you would bring proud people over, and as you say, okay, so now you are this animal thing, right?
You mean from where we were?
From where
proud,
we were,
chest
proud,
out,
chest
and then
out,
saying you
people,
are this word, and
right?
Right. Okay.
That's a bad nigger. Like you would say, that's a bad dog, right? And so then the bad nigger became the hero, right? Because he's like, no, I refuse to be this thing. And so he became the hero. So at one point, I'm breaking the laws, right? Because you're saying that I'm this thing. And on the other side, I'm fighting for my will. I'm fighting for my right to be human.
Sure. Yeah.
So you can see why, right? And that we didn't, in a lot of ways, didn't have other language to refer to ourselves besides that word.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Right.
And so then it's like, oh yeah, right? So we understand it from that perspective. But now we have better language to be able to use it. I also understand that, it was also a way for us to desensitize one another when we would run into it, so we wouldn't flip out if somebody called us that, right? So much in the same way during the Civil Rights Act, they would take people through the training so that if somebody spit on you, kicked you, you just kept moving, right?
Wait. Is that your contention that because it was bad, that it is bad?
No. My contention is that words have vibration and meaning.
Yes.
And that as much as you might want to try to change the meaning of a word, you can't.
Got a question.
Yeah.
So, if a word has meaning and vibration, right? Wouldn't it mean that your vibration is the protagonist of said word?
That's the question. That is the question. We'll get into that. And so one of the studies that I looked at was, again, word studies, the energy around words. And so I used the EEG, and I'll show you the headset in a little bit. But one of the studies that I looked at used emotionally charged words and neutral words, okay? But the only thing that the participant heard was the last syllable of the word. So for an example, love and glove, right? So one neutral, one emotional, right? But the only thing that the participant heard was of.
Of, okay.
But yet, the body and the brain responded as though it had heard the word.
Love and glove, or just love?
Well, love,
Just
love,
the of.
love. They only heard of,
right,
but the full word was love, or the full word was glove.
right.
But your body has a physiological response
To each word, or
well, yes, you do. So your brain's always active, right? And so there are some words that are neutral, right? And so
Glove.
you're not going to have glove. You're not going to have a physiological tick,
yeah,
right? Uptick in the brain.
yeah.
That you will when you hear an emotional word.
Love.
Right?
So what you're saying is,
Go for it.
the person reacted when they heard love, even though they only heard of.
Correct. Correct. So it is the energy of the word itself, right? And so that got me to thinking, right? Well,
So the
yeah.
person technically, in their mind, only heard of,
that's right.
and in their understanding, I know that's love. I know what sounds like that. It couldn't
Wait
be
a minute,
anything else.
there's a
So you have an
component-
emotional response to it.
There's a component missing, and that's tone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so if I say love in a loving tone, then yeah, my body's going to pick up on that loving tone versus if I say glove, neutral.
Right.
But what if it's the same
It's a
tone
trick.
though?
Huh?
Well, which is why when you do
Do
these,
they react?
which is why when you do these studies, it's done in what they call neutral prosody, and so you almost want to sound like a robot when you say the word,
Got you.
right? So you don't want to have any
Love,
inflection.
Glove.
Glove.
Yeah.
So why don't you have a robot say it then?
Well, because what black man do you know that's a robot?
No. But if you want to judge one way or
ain't got
another,
robots.
No, you got ChatGPT. Like if you want to judge a neutral reaction, right? Use something that's neutral because you're using something that is variable. A person that no matter what they can try all they want to, but there is going to be different variations in their voice, especially if they're doing it all day.
Well, there's different variation in the tone of voice, but there's not necessarily different variation in the inflection of the voice, right? So
What's inflection?
in the way that we speak. When I say of and glove and love, right? Those are inflections that would, in a lot of ways, give you clues into how I mean it, right? So like I said, everything communicates. right? Including tone and inflection.
Yes, ma'am.
So what you do when you do these studies is that you do it in neutral prosody. So when I had the guys who helped me out with the recording of this, I had to coach them. Because, like, for an example, one of the words, the neutral words was fine. And they were like, fine. I'm like, no.
She fine.
Can the black man say fine neutrally?
I can't.
It took about 5 takes. It took about 5
She's
takes.
fine.
She is fine.
No, so they just
She's
had to say,
fine.
they're like, okay, it's like, fine, nope, back it up, brother. We're going to have to do that again. So those are the things that you watch out for is that prosody. So it
Okay.
does have to be neutral.
Okay.
But that's a good question, though.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question. So that's what's one of the things that sparked me. And then it's like, okay, well, then if that's the case, if we know we are oppressed, right? Because this is really about liberation. Right? This whole thing for me is about liberation. How do we bring ourselves up to a higher level of consciousness whereby we are affecting our future today? How do we do that? So we looked into oppressive. So I looked at, Albert Memmi, Colonized and the Oppressed, Paulo Freire, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Franz Fanon, Black Faces, White Mask, right? So all these guys who were like in the midst of it, not American, but in the midst of this. And they all really are saying the same thing, that we have generally 3 responses, right? So the first one is what they call respectability politics, and that's assimilation. Right? So if I, right, then they're going to accept me because I'm going to take on the values of, I'm going to act like I'm going to, do what they want me to do, and therefore they will accept me. And if I put everything that might be related to my culture or who I am, if I put that on the side, and they'll accept me.
Yeah.
No, doesn't work. They're not going to stop you from trying, right? Because you make a useful pawn in a lot of ways, but it doesn't work. You're not in. Right? The next thing is rejection. So you think about rejection. So we have people like Martin Luther King, who was a rejectionist, right? I reject what you're saying is valid, based on what you say in the Constitution. What you're doing here is not valid. Right. I reject it.
Right.
Malcolm X, I reject it by any means necessary, right? I reject it. And then, Stokely Carmichael, Push, right? Black Panthers, all of those are really rejectionist movements, right? And so then according to what's left, right? So what's left is what some people call internalized racism, which I don't like that term because it just assumes I'm taking that on. But what I really look at it as a...
Is that I just accept it?
Internalized racism is more like what people like to say, oh, black people hate themselves, right? I'm bad because I'm black. And you have a lot of people who have internalized racism,
Sure.
right? But what and so there is that piece. And so part of internal, and I don't like the term internalizing, but I like the term psycho-colonial adaptation.
Ooh. I actually like that. Shit.
Right? Because I am adjusting my psyche to adapt to this colonialized system.
Yep.
And so the ways in which I know how to act as a human being, either try to get in where you fit in, reject it outright, or what else is left. And so Mimi really has a good quote around that. And he basically says that rather than being sort of surprised by the few outbreaks and outbursts that different systems have in response to colonialism, that we really should be surprised that there aren't more. Right?
Yeah.
And so there is at some point where the
More
person,
people snapping the hell out.
more people, more groups, right?
Yeah.
And so then what happens is the person just says, okay, fine. If that's what you want me to be, that's what I'm going to be. Right?
Gotcha.
And so that's that the what I call the psycho-colonial adaptation.
Wait a minute, that sounds like the internalizing at the same time. So you're really associating the same behavior with 2 causes.
Well, no. See, the reason I don't like internalizing is because it puts it solely on the person. and saying, oh, you are internalizing this thing, rather than saying you are adapting to an oppressive system. That's different in my mind. Internalizing is like, okay, so you sit down with the
Internalize more like victim
with
or whatever.
with the therapist who says, oh, well, and I didn't mean to point at you with therapists, but just generally, you sit down with the therapist. It's like, oh, well, okay, so what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you sure that you saw that?
Oh,
Is
so-
there another way to interpret that?
Internalizing me, I think I'm a victim.
Internalizing, in some
or
ways,
psychokinesis situation.
In some ways, you are taking on that mantra that if you say that I am a
I have to be quiet and they'll listen to me. You know,
if you say that black people are X or Hispanic people are X or whoever is X,
black folks is ratchet.
Here's an example, right? So especially Asian women get they're supposed to be demure and quiet. Okay. And so, sometimes if you take that on as your own responsibility of this is what I'm supposed to be because this is what's expected of me, that's really kind of that internalization. But what some people look at as internalization, and then they place it solely on the person and say, well, why do you do that? You know you don't have to do that, right? But at the same time, there are all of these forces making you, forcing you, putting you in that place.
That sounds like everybody who lives in America has to do that third one, whether you like it or not, because you gotta go through their system. It's their systems, so you gotta go through their school system. You gotta go through their governmental system. You gotta go through their system, so you gotta conform to because what they doing really, they ain't building right, so they taking your money, taxes, and they put it in their pocket. Everybody getting fat, right? But ain't nothing being built. Ain't no new bridges. Ain't no new skyscrapers. Nothing. We gotta conform to their system, no matter what. If you live in this country,
So you got to do shit like hide your hair. You got to do shit like you got to do all those kind of intentional things because it's either you fit in, quote unquote fit in, or you get ostracized.
Yeah, you can. And so the psycho-colonial adaptation that African Americans took on specifically is this notion of owning this word.
nigga.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
Right? So, in essence, it's a way for me to get power, at least in my mind.
A sense of power.
At least in my mind.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm saying I can, but you can't.
Mhm.
I can say it, you can say it. Oh, well, it's not ER, it's
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's like, okay, all right, I get it. Okay, I see it. I see it. It might be more than an hour, but
For real.
but here's the thing. And I'm gonna do three things here. Okay. So, what movement meant to empower Black folks has been accepted by the government and not squashed? What movement meant to empower Black folks
Oh, I got what
has
you're
been
saying.
accepted by the government wholeheartedly and not squashed?
Right.
Accepted.
Accepted.
Right. Any movement that we've ever had, what have they
None-
ever been like?
none.
Great job. Keep going.
None.
None.
Okay. All right. So that's number one. Okay. So if I'm taking back the power and I'm empowering myself, and white folks used to hit me in the eye, and that was their way of showing me. So now I can hit me in the eye, but you can't hit me in the eye. Is my eye still being hit? Is that empowering?
No.
Okay. So the proliferation.
Wait, you said 3.
Okay, I'm about to get to it. Have folks flipped out about Black Lives Matter?
Wait, you asked the question?
Yeah.
What was the question?
Have folks flipped out? You know the folks I'm talking about the saying, the slogan, the movement,
Oh, sure.
Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter.
Yes.
Okay. Have those same folks flipped out about nigger and nigger?
Never.
Why?
I mean, we haven't. So in that sense, Black Lives Matter has its own is a movement, if you will. It's its own thing. There's never been a nigga movement. So no
But
one
there is, though.
no one stood up and said, "Hey, we're gonna call it. We're gonna call this the nigga movement, and this is it. And we're gonna march. And as we marching, we're gonna say nigga movement. It's never been that.
It doesn't have to be.
But that's the only equivalent in terms of the conversation.
I got to get in this. And
Why are you raising your hand?
Because I'm respectfully, I'm going to need just a minute or two.
Go. I love it.
First off, on 2 of your 3 things, they're presumptuous.
Okay. Tell me why.
Because your second thing, what was your second thing?
What was my first one?
It was yours. I don't know. It was your stuff.
I talked about empowerment, right? So what movement?
You answered 3. You answered,
what movement?
Okay.
Hitting yourself in the eye.
Okay.
Yeah,
That was the
hit
second
yourself
one.
in the eye.
Yeah. Okay, second one. So now you're presuming that my motivation for saying the word nigga is some type of political statement and or movement.
No.
That's assumption. I'm gonna tell you why. Just
Okay.
give me a second.
Go
Just
for
give me a
it.
second.
Yeah.
And do you remember your third thing?
Yeah, my third one was the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. You're also presuming that I care about Black Lives Matter.
No.
But I can explain to you one thing
Okay.
personally.
Yeah.
So this is why this is subjective.
Okay, go.
Personally,
Yeah.
I never even said the word nigga until I was in a governmental facility. And in that governmental facility, I was only 12 years old. But I bought the tape, Tupacalypse Now. Tupacalypse Now, he had a quote on there. It says, "Never ignorant, getting goals accomplished, nigga," right? And at that moment, I took that acronym as the meaning of nigga, and I have used nigga as a word of endurement since then. Never thought about any political nothing or Black Lives nothing. Nigga is nigga. It's my word that I get to say. I don't know nothing about who said it before me. I ain't even seen no slave. I ain't never seen no slave. So all I know is nigga is a nigga, and I mean it in the most loving way. It's there every vibration into the water, nigga. It's gonna say good, because I love niggas. I love them. I'm a nigga. I'm a king. I'm a king. I'm a royal king.
Can I
and
add
I'm
to
a
that?
nigga at the exact same time.
Let me add to that.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Let me add to that. There was
I am going to say something, though.
There's also in reasoning, empowerment, whatever. But there's also a time because you would say, well, what if someone put the hard ER, right? So we got called a hard ER before, right? Yeah. And we laughed about it, and we knew they were going to do this. Yeah. I wasn't offended by it. I wasn't offended by it because you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know the king, the warrior that you're talking to. So it's you're belittling yourself.
Control me.
Right. You're trying to control me with a word. Right. You're trying to control me with a word. Actually, it was pretty cute.
Right.
You gonna call us a nigga when you go away, right?
Nigger. You know how to spell.
And that same thing happened to me, and I had the same response.
Right.
I laughed.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, that's funny. Here's my point. My point is twofold. That one is the question. If I say, oh, it's cool, is it cool? Vibrationally, universally, metaphysically, physiologically, is it cool? Regardless of who I heard it from, first, second, third, whatever, right? I brought up Black Lives Matter in juxtaposition to the proliferation of you guys were talking about the music industry earlier, right? My brother, years ago, he's gone now, but he was into the music industry. He wrote really positive music and rejected by every record label because it wasn't black enough.
No dissension in the words.
Right? And so when we think about the proliferation of that word and what it means, right? And how it was meant to be used.
Wait, what does it mean?
It's an animal.
We already did the history, man.
It's an animal.
Nigger.
Yeah.
That's well.
Okay, so
isn't there a country called Niger? Niger.
Nigeria.
Would that? I'm just curious, right? Would that? When I first got here to Minnesota, they used to call me St. Louis. You know what I mean? Because I came from St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
Hey, St. Louis.
Right.
So could they, in fact, have been calling you trying to say Niger, but because they. Could they be saying? I'm asking the question. I just want to know. Could that be a possibility?
Also, there is a Ethiopian word called niggas or something like that, which means king or something like that, right? So.
Okay.
So yikes! Words mean a lot of different things in a lot
Right.
of different
That's what
places.
Words can mean a lot of things, but they didn't say king, queen. They didn't have king and queen farms. They weren't selling kings and queens and breeding kings and queens. They didn't exclude kings and queens from the Constitution, right? And so when we think about what happened after freedom from British, right, America's freedom from the British, where they formed the Confederate States, it was an active campaign from all of the colonizers, the Spanish, the French, the Dutch, the British, the Americans, to associate black people with animals.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that was an active campaign, and so when we talk about things about in the Constitution, when we talk about what we're dealing with now is racism. We're not dealing with racism. What we're dealing with is humanism. Right? That is what we're dealing with, because the color of my skin should never be on anybody's political ballot. But what we are talking about is the proximity to what they call human or man, right? So I believe that our species is man. I'm female, you're male. But species is man. So at the end of the day, what never got rectified is that definition of man.
Is whether we were a part of the human species or not.
What never got rectified was 3/5 human.
Right.
Right?
It did get rectified.
Did it?
Yes.
In what way?
I rectified it.
Well, of course, you and I rectified
Well,
it.
I'm just saying, it
I'm
was
not
rectified.
talking about
3/5 of what? What? 3/5 God? Maybe. I don't know. But
Gator, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm just saying that
You know what I'm
ain't
talking
nobody
about.
called me no Ed or whatever.
I done watched you, and I know you can be one of them contentious ones. Now stop it.
She done watched the show. You can't play her.
Stop.
we gotta wrap up. But go ahead.
Okay.
I'll let you get your last
But at
thoughts.
the end of the day, let me just do this really quick. Let me show you. This is the EEG headset that I used as people heard the various words that are within our community. And what it does is records your brain activity. And what we understand and what we do know, and EEGs have been around for over 100 years, and what we do know is that words have an emotional effect.
Yeah.
So in neutral prosody, people heard words that were pertinent to our community. Like I told you, I was joking, I said fine, but they heard fine and other words and they also heard in and in . And what I can say is the preliminary results, the initial results are in, and there is an emotional response. and people were grouped. Is it cool? Do you use it? Right? And so it's either yes, it's cool, yes, I use it, yes, it's cool, no, I don't use it, or no, it's not cool, and no, I don't use it. It doesn't matter. And it was heard by an African male voice, and so there still was an emotional response. Now, I'm not talking about a conscious response. This happens within 1/300th of a second.
Okay, subconsciously.
It is a subconscious.
So
response.
before you even think about it, it's
you don't even know. It's you haven't had a
Electric current.
form. It's
So
an
you're-
electric current.
you're running this dissertation, and I know you're trying to do some tests and stuff like that.
Yep.
So you're done now.
I'm done with the test. I'm waiting on the data.
But the data, you need bodies.
No, so I
She already got the
already have the
body. It's done.
participants. The participants they've done
Oh,
their
okay,
part.
okay.
I've gotten the preliminary data, right? That says, yep, there's an emotional response to either the word in either form. And now I'm trying to determine, or the data needs to come in and get crunched in terms of statistical significance.
While you wait on that data, you should do the B word for girls.
You know, I can do a whole lot, but see, it's the same thing. It's an animal. We need to stop referring
Right.
to ourselves
As
as animals. This is about liberation. This is about freedom. This is about not harming ourselves in either way, shape, or form. Now, I do have to say, just like as, how kids, you could say one curse word one time and all of a sudden it's in their vocabulary. And you're like, how did that happen? It's the same thing with this word.
Right.
When I was doing this dissertation and I had to write this word so many times.
It's in you now. It's in you.
Well, it's like,
How did you get it out?
right, hey, higher, right, resonating
Yeah,
resonating higher.
You didn't see when she hugged me. She's like, "Come here, nigga."
He knows I would never do that. Stop it. You need to stop it now.
I'm lying.
You lied. You lied. But I will say, when I was into it heavy and writing heavy, I had to go to work, and I'm like, oh man, I got to meet with these.
With these people. Yeah.
I know these some niggas.
Oh man, what's up with that? So it does get in you, but you know what? It's easier to sink than it is to rise.
Well, you gotta you have a business, and we want to partner with you eventually with it, because I just had some of this. That's what this tea is, y'all. Y'all see me drinking, and it was very calming and smooth. But she has others. So talk about your business.
Sure.
This is
So
your
I've
opportunity.
so multiple streams, you know that. So I have a purpose. It's called Regina's Purposed Teas. So it's all organic, all herbal, but meant to support our bodies in health, healing, and wellness. So I've got 14 blends that from relax to sleep, and then the life that happens in between.
Dope.
Yeah.
All right,
Excellent.
real nice. How can they get some of that?
Purposedteas.com.
Purposedteas.com. Excellent. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. I know y'all love the show. She loves the show. She's been watching this mug for a while, and she prepared herself. Actually, she's like, "I'm gonna watch this mug. I'm gonna watch this nigga."
I'm gonna watch this N-word. I'm kidding. I love
But
it.
everybody else, please like, subscribe, please share, because we about nation building. We out of here.
Wait a minute. Let me give a shout out to my
Nigga,
black
you don't
business.
do that with the
black
closing.
business. I'm gonna give a shout out to Pack House Live. Yep.
We already did that, like
No,
earlier.
that was my shout out.
Do I got to do the like and subscribe again?
Yep. Right. Who's your black business, man?
I already said actively black again. God damn it, I'm wearing they shit. I love they shit. We out.
He don't know many black businesses.